For more than a decade, Ed O'Neill lived as the man everyone loved to hate. To the world, he was Al Bundy, the defeated shoe salesman, the man trapped in a house full of insults and broken dreams. But behind that cynical smirk was a story few fans ever knew, a story of exhaustion, regret, and moments that blurred the line between fiction and reality. When the camera stopped rolling, Ed O'Neill wasn't laughing. He was watching his own life become inseparable from the man America laughed at every Sunday night. And now, decades later, he's telling the truth, the story that never made the tabloids and the one that changed how he sees everything. The audition that changed his life happened in 1986 when Ed O'Neill walked into a casting room in Los Angeles that would unknowingly define the rest of his career. He wasn't the studio's first choice, not even close. Fox Broadcasting Company executives wanted a familiar name for their daring new sitcom about a miserable middle-class family. But when Ed slumped into a chair, let out a long defeated sigh, and mumbled his first line, the room went silent. That small gesture, born from watching his own uncles after long factory shifts in Ohio, became the moment the creators Michael G. Moy and Ron Levitt saw Al Bundy come to life. Even then, the network hesitated. Ed wasn't a star, he was a theater actor with a few film credits and a face nobody could place. Weeks went by with no call, and he assumed he'd lost the part, but the producers fought for him, insisting that his weariness, his timing, and his quiet authenticity were irreplaceable. When Fox finally said yes, the wait was immediate. Ed wasn't just playing a character, he was carrying the entire experiment of a network trying to prove itself against giants like NBC and CBS. If Married with Children failed, it wouldn't just end his career, it could sink Fox's early ambitions. Ed threw himself into the role completely. He studied the script line by line, making every sigh, insult, and sarcastic comeback feel real. But what he didn't know then was that this realism would come with a price. The exhaustion of playing a man who'd given up on life began to blur into his own reality, and before long the family that was supposed to be fictional started tearing itself apart behind the scenes. Most fans assumed the Bundys we saw in the pilot were there from the beginning, but they weren't. When Married with Children first filmed its pilot episode, Kelly and Bud Bundy were played by two different actors, Tina Caspary and Hunter Carson. The set felt off from the start. Ed O'Neill later recalled that something about the family dynamic just didn't click. The chemistry wasn't there and the humor fell flat. He could feel it in the room, every joke landing with the wrong rhythm and every silence heavier than it should be. Then, just weeks after wrapping the pilot, Fox executives made a brutal call. Both kids were fired. The reason, according to Ed, wasn't just performance, it was compatibility with him. The show lived or died on the illusion that this was a real family, and the studio believed the energy around Ed needed to feel authentic. Tina was too polished, Hunter too restrained. It was a painful decision. Ed later admitted he felt guilty for what happened. Those actors had filmed the pilot, celebrated, and told their families they'd made it, only to get a phone call that erased it all. They were gone before the show even started, he said quietly. Then came the replacements. A 15-year-old Christina Applegate walked into the audition room and nailed the role instantly. She was sharp, funny, and carried that strange mix of innocence and rebellion the creators had been desperate for. David Faustino, just 12, gave Bud Bundy a sly, desperate humor that balanced Ed's darkness. Suddenly, everything worked. But while the on-screen family finally clicked, off-screen pressures started mounting. The show was filmed in front of a live audience, every episode a public test. Each laugh, or lack of it, was a judgment. And as Ed soon learned, carrying both the humor and the heartbreak of Al Bundy every week would take more than just good timing. It would take a toll on his mind, his body, and his relationships for years to come. Every week for 11 years Ed O'Neill stood under the heat of studio lights performing for a live audience of 300 to 500 people. The laughter was real, so were the stumbles, the silences, and the pressure. Married with Children wasn't filmed in a safe bubble with canned laughter. Every scene lived or died in real time, and Ed felt that weight more than anyone else. He once admitted that when a scene failed you could feel the disappointment in the room. When the audience laughed it was electric, he said, but when they didn't you wanted to disappear. The exhaustion was relentless. Some episodes stretched deep into the night as the cast repeated takes trying to chase the perfect rhythm between laughter and silence. If the crowd laughed too long, timing collapsed. If they didn't laugh at all, directors stopped everything to reshoot. Ed's body began to pay the price. He was doing constant physical comedy, falls, fights, slapstick chaos, all meant to look effortless. But by season 5 his back was in constant pain. He pushed through bruises and fatigue knowing that if Al Bundy ever looked like he wasn't trying the entire illusion would collapse. Some days he'd drive home barely able to move only to return the next morning and do it all again. The live crowd also made certain moments excruciating. When jokes about Peg's laziness or sexuality went too far you could feel the discomfort ripple through the audience. Katie Sagal once told him she dreaded certain scenes, not because of the script but because doing them in front of real people felt like being stripped bare. Still, Ed insisted the audience was what made the show feel alive, unpredictable, messy, and brutally honest. But that same energy also exposed every weakness, every missed beat, and every piece of humanity the cast tried to hide. For years fans speculated about tension between Ed O'Neill and Amanda Bearse, the actress who played Marcy, the sarcastic neighbor constantly clashing with Al Bundy. Ed denied the rumors for a long time, but in recent interviews he finally admitted the truth. There was a feud, and it lasted years. It began in 1989 with something that seemed harmless. TV Guide released a cover featuring the show's stars, but only Ed and Katie Sagal were on it. Amanda Bearse and her on-screen husband David Garrison were left out. Ed knew about the cover beforehand, but said nothing. At the time he thought little of it. He was the lead and Katie was his co-star. But to Amanda it was a betrayal. She felt erased from a show she had helped define. He could have said something, she later told fans. He didn't. Ed admitted he regretted staying silent. I should have spoken up, he said. That was a mistake. The atmosphere on set changed. Conversations grew short, eye contact disappeared, and the professional rhythm that made the Bundy Rhodes dynamic so funny now carried invisible tension. Things got worse in 1993 when Amanda got married and didn't invite Ed. She later said it wasn't out of spite, she just wanted a peaceful day free from the awkwardness of their strained friendship. Ed took it personally. That hurt, he confessed. I thought we were family. From then on they barely spoke outside of scripted lines. Even scenes together became uncomfortable, an irony for two actors who had made audiences laugh with their constant bickering. Years later Ed admitted his ego played a part. I should have understood how she felt, he said. I didn't. And as the seasons went on, Married with Children became less like a comedy and more like a battlefield where every joke hid an unspoken wound. The controversies didn't help. In 1989 the show faced a firestorm that could have destroyed it when conservative activist Terry Racolta launched a boycott campaign. She wrote letters to advertisers claiming the show was corrupting American families, and within weeks companies like Coca-Cola and Procter & Gamble pulled their ads. For Fox, still a young network, it was a nightmare. Emergency meetings were held and executives debated whether to tone down the scripts or cancel the show entirely. Ironically, the boycott became the best publicity the show ever had. Ratings skyrocketed as people tuned in just to see what the controversy was about. Ed later joked it was the greatest marketing campaign they never paid for, though privately he admitted the experience changed how he saw success. Fame always came with a cost, and sometimes that cost was innocence. By 1991, another tragedy struck when Katie Sagal, pregnant during the 6th season, lost her baby in her 7th month. Production stopped and scripts were rewritten into a surreal dream episode where Al imagines Peg giving birth only to wake up and realize it never happened. To viewers it looked like dark comedy, but to the cast it was unbearable. Ed later admitted he didn't know how to comfort her and stayed quiet, a decision he would regret for years. Around that same time he refused to film a scene he believed made Al Bundy genuinely cruel. Al could be miserable, angry, pathetic, but not evil, he argued, and the writers eventually rewrote it. After 11 seasons the show ended abruptly in 1997. There was no farewell episode, no phone call from the network, just silence. Ed O'Neill discovered the cancellation while staying at a quiet bed and breakfast in Ohio when a newly married couple recognized him and mentioned they were sorry his show had been canceled. That was the moment he realized it was over. Even Christina Applegate learned about the cancellation secondhand. After a decade of carrying one of television's most talked about shows, the cast never even received a goodbye. Years later Ed O'Neill would find redemption on Modern Family playing Jay Pritchett, a warm and grounded father figure very different from Al Bundy. Looking back he realized Al Bundy wasn't just a joke but a reflection of frustration, broken dreams, and quiet endurance. Millions of viewers saw a piece of themselves in him. As Ed once said, if you watched the show and thought Al was someone to admire, you missed the point. He was there so we could laugh at how hard life can be. What about you? Do you think Married with Children could survive in today's world, or was it a product of its time that should never be repeated? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories revealing the truth behind television's most unforgettable legends.